Okay. Hello everyone, it's Michael here from the Talcom Studios channel, and today I'm going to be talking a bit about the Regulator 1.0. Now, I have not worked on it for about a week or to 2 weeks, so I've gotten feedback. I already made a video, but I never rendered it out. I also sounded very tired and was I don't feel like it was a really good video to post, and I don't feel like we got to worry really much about repeating information that's already been said at least once. So, what we're going to talk about today is basically the idea of going to the next level with some of the work. Now, I believe people have seen most of the gameplay that was relevant back in the past, but now the gameplay is changing and it's not going to be this relevant anymore. So in a 2D scenario where it's in 2D mode, that's how the gameplay was played out, and it still sort of is playing out like that, using the lights and clouds and everything. But from the layout perspective, it's right. From what it's going to be doing eventually or soon is going to be something completely different. The problem with this is I always have these major issues with changing things, and the reason I have to change them this time around is because of lighting and all these little bugs, and it's even affecting the world light here, I believe. So we'll notice that this light never changes, it never gets dark, it never gets bright, and it's because of the camera or the light. I don't think it's something to do with the light. I'm not really sure exactly what about the light, but there's something funny about the light. Now I can experiment with the rotation. Yeah, we can get the brightness to work. So it must be because of the rotational values set for the light. So I'll be able to set that. Now I know that problem. Let's see. So what we're trying to do now is convert from what we had before to basically uh, now we're working towards going to the next level with this project. And the reason being is because now we have enough technology at our disposal to turn this not only into a test level, but to use this level to produce other levels to set an atmosphere up. So basically, we're in the 2D scale right now, which is basically what we had before. So this here is the 2D scale. This is what I'm considering the 2D scale. So if I unpause it, play it again, going to the scene view. This here is how the game was laying out and how it was looking. So as you may be able to recognize, it doesn't look that great. It has a lot of 2D art. It has some 3D assets if I was to change layers, which I still can do, I believe. And I haven't changed layers. It was minus, and so we can still change layers. And as you can see, there's some 3D models in here as well, mixed in with the 2D assets. Now, I did like the idea of the grid. I might still be able to keep that grid to set up a starting point, but I'm also thinking about having the bottom layer be dirt and having a bottom limit where we can complicate some things like from reservoirs and having an actual permanent sort of a singular object in which we can probably set the water value to go up and down and have animation and show like river levels, water levels, and be able to set up something natural in the environment that you can recognize by looking at it and be able to tell what the resources are getting used at that point in time. And that would be a real benefit to a player to know that, hey, this resource is running out, and we can visually see that. So there are other plans. For example, we're going to have like a power factory. We know that from the images we can see in the screen. So there's a lot of things to be done, and the big reason for why we got to change a lot of code and rewrite a lot of things is because the 2D code and the 3D code might not work together really well. I could switch between the two, but if I'm aiming for this project to run effectively as possible in the 3D environment, I'm better off just rewriting it from near scratch and making it work to the best of its ability. So to make this work, I've got to figure out a lot of parameters. For one, there is the environment, the scale of the terrain. I need to figure out what's going to fit into it. How many pieces do I want to fit into it? How do I want to scale this? Do I want it to be preset scale, or do I want to manually scale? So preset scale I can see being a potential problem, and so I may want to set a preset scale in which everything's scaled according to the size of said object. So if I go to the terrain, there's actually no way way to actually scale it up or down. So I can rotate this as much as possible. I can set the scale, but it will only scale child objects, which is not really a benefit. So you can see nothing happens there. The way this scale works is you basically go to the terrain settings and then you see the terrain width and the terrain length. This is stuff that changes. And so if I was to say add, oh, oops, I'll go back to that in a second. I sort of made something weird happen. If I was to add an extra 0 to this, you'll see it goes crazy large, or it will completely break Unity, in which Unity will just hate me. It will just really badly hate me. So what if I was to 1500 bang? What if I was to change this to 250 bang? Okay, so that's basically what I'm talking about by the scale sort of stuff. It will be able to scale based on the terrain width and length and height. And that is how I'm going to have to figure out my scale. So how many times does 25 go into 2500? And what's the scale going to look like? This is all kind of tricky. For right now, we can put on about 90,000 game objects onto this one plane. So in a 3D space, this is where the bottleneck in performance will end up being. In a 3D space, the bottleneck is basically you have one layer, but then you have multiple layers on top. And this is where it's going to potentially cause issues unless I know how to write it right. So if I've written it correctly, nothing should happen under certain conditions where the value of said pipe below is not less than something else, and if it goes down and there's a pipe connected above, it needs to basically send off a request to say, hey, send me a resource, and tell it to unlock and start doing stuff again. So a lock and unlock sort of a feature, or you could continuously just check to see if something's happening or not. It's kind of confusing, and I don't know the right way to go about doing this, but I'm going to figure something out. I feel like this is going to take a lot of time because I've been out of the game for about 1 to 2 weeks, and I'm only just getting back into making this again. So far, as you can see, I've got my controller working, and I've actually set this up pretty well because what I've done, if I go into the scene view, you don't notice anything weird, I don't believe. There's that little box there, that's not too weird, but if I was to take it out of play mode, go into the scene view, where are they? They're meant to be there. Okay, well, I think I could scrap the idea that, hey, this was meant to be working because it doesn't seem to be. Okay, so here we go. Here's a box. Now, if I go to play mode, and then I go back to the scene, we'll see that box is still there, but it's vanished. It doesn't really have an active collider, so it can't be um, collided with. But as a player, I can use that. I can go to see where the edge of the map is, and I've been using this as a tool to help figure out the parameters for like the standard positions and things. So as you can see the box floating there, and if I turn off the mesh renderer, it's no longer there. So this is meant to be a tool to help develop the map. So if I had enough speed and height, if I could get high enough, as you can see the edge of the terrain and beyond the edge. I haven't really checked all the way around the map, but I've been trying to prevent these little glitches from happening. I'll have to try and lock down the camera a bit harder to make it a little bit better. But pretty much that's what I've done. Things are going to go slowly. I am planning on redesigning the entire GUI, overhauling a lot of stuff. So basically on my to-do list currently, and I'm going to call this my to-do list since I'm going to write it here, is the GUI overhaul. And I've renamed this project up here, Major 5 Overhaul. I don't know why I called it 5, but it felt like a really cool way to say it. And it could relate to unconsciously coming up with that number based on things that are probably already in my mind. So there's the GUI I'm going to be overhauling, which is 1. We have the entirety, or just about the entirety, of the controller, the pipes controller, which is pipes. I call it pipes controller because it's the easiest way to talk about it. Okay, so the pipes controller. Let's see, we have some shop stuff we're gonna have to overhaul. So 3 is the shop. What else is there to overhaul? There is the alert system which keeps breaking. So the alert system. There might be a fifth thing. I don't know for sure. All I know is I probably unconsciously came up with that number five. Maybe because in the back of my mind there is about well five things that I've majorly got to work on and deal with. I'm not really aware of what the fifth thing would be if I had to major overhaul anything. I'll probably find out later down the line if there really was a number five, or yeah, maybe it's the weather system. Although that I just made. It's kind of crude. So yeah, I might actually just say that's number five because the weather system is a bit crappy. And it was kind of hard for me to come up with that one because I was thinking to myself, do I really want to call it the weather system and say that needs an overhaul? In a way, it does. In a way, it doesn't. In a way, I could keep it. In a way, I could remove it. I don't really know for sure what I should do with it. All I know, there's a little bit of tweaking that needs to be done. There's a bunch of mechanics still missing from the weather system. The alert system keeps breaking. The shop overhaul is because of a new way we're going to make it possible to have pipes because of some feedback we got. The pipe controller is the thing that allows this game to work the way it was designed to work, and the GUI is just something that looks terrible in a lot of people's eyes, and it looks really, really not even alpha in their eyes. It does actually look like alpha. It's giving the representation of alpha, but it's really crude the way it was laid out and designed. So my potential plan with this is to either take this on to incubate a program and work on it there with the help of potentially programmers, artists, and some other designers to help get things done, make this work, and potentially market this item through with the help of Incubator and GDML, or maybe I'll focus on something else. But I know I'm gonna finish this game because I've started it. I put a lot of work into it so far. The only problem is it feels very stressful to try and figure out how to do each one of these really, really well or really perfectly. Nothing's going to come out perfectly. I can't promise that. All I know is the Major 5 overhaul. Here's your list, even though I'm calling it unconsciously picked. Unconsciously, I picked those things. Thank you all for watching. I'm going to let you guys go because I need to focus on thinking about how I'm going to set up my tasks, so like how I'm going to do all this stuff. What am I going to program? How am I going to redesign the GUI? How am I going to make things better with this project? Minor things, major things. Yeah, I've run out of things I've got to say at the moment because I really want to get to work on this and think about this because it is on my mind. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day or night wherever you are in the world. It's Michael. See you later.